Welcome back to my channel. This is Angelo Christmas and me documenting my journey to $20,000 per month as a high ticket closer. So in today's video I have a really nice call review I'm going to be going through. Not the entire call, just the first section of the call, because I feel that made the whole call, and that's where I won the sale, because it was a very difficult prospect. She was very tricky to deal with, had a ton of excuses, wouldn't take ownership, but obviously helped her overcome those limitations you had in her mind and helped her reframe herself. So I felt it was really good on my part, and that's what led to the sale, which was a $4,000 sale at the end of the call. Now, before we jump into the call that I'm going to review here today, I just wanted to also give a quick update in terms of where I'm at the month so far. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I started off the month at only limited to 5 calls, but since my close rate did go up, my close rate sitting at about 38% now for the month, which is amazing. So well above KPI, which after that losing streak I faced last month. And then since I obviously got my KPI up again, I was then able to take more calls. But as soon as I was able to take more calls, the lead flow started slowing down quite a bit. So I haven't really took much calls this month, even though my close rate is very good. The call volume is really low so far. So it is what it is though. I'm going to see how things go this next week. Hopefully it does pick up. It seems like it's starting to pick up, which it should be. So hoping I can obviously pick up sooner rather than later, so that I can obviously make some really good impact this month and make this my next biggest month. So aside from that, really excited to see how the rest of the month plays out, and looking forward to diving into the video today and seeing how I handle this tricky prospect and how I helped her stop making excuses and finally realize that she's the problem, which was kind of like a breakthrough call for me, because these types of prospects I would always have a really hard time with dealing in the past. But as you're going to see in this video, from what I remember, I handled this really well. So this call was from May, a call I had a few months ago, so it's not a recent call, but I just remember this being a really nice call in terms of how I handled the first part of the call, and we'll get to see a bit more about that as we dive in. So let's jump straight in.
Hi.
Hi Angela, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
A really nice name.
Well, actually, it's my middle name. My first name is Rochelle, but I kind of use Angela a lot. So, how are you?
Okay, cool. Now I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Cool. Glad to connect today, Angela. So would you prefer Angela or is Rochelle better for you?
You can do Angela, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So before we do dive in, Angela, also need to let you know the call is being recorded just for training and compliance. Okay.
Yep, no problem.
Sweet. So a bit of context on me then, Angela. As you can see, my name's Angelo. So I'm one of the metabolic advisors here at V-Shred, and I work quite closely with Vince and the team. So today my role is quite simple, right? Just to, hear your fitness goals, what you've tried in the past, what you've been struggling with, and also just to make sure that you're going down. Speaking of fitness goals, I just also wanted to share a big milestone I hit today in the gym. It was my first time ever doing 50 kgs weighted dips, which was big milestone for me, because my long-term goal is to get to like 100 kgs weighted dips, which is insane, especially for someone with my body height, my body weight, sorry. I mean, I'm not very heavy at the moment. I'm like 64 kilos, and today I hit a personal record in the gym doing weighted dips with an additional 50 kgs. So that's almost 100% extra on my body weight, and I hit 6 reps till failure, which was incredible for me, because when I started working out, I could barely even do normal body weight dips, So big milestone for me. And yeah, aside from sales, in terms of gym, I'm really happy with my progress, and I may even start posting more, gym content in the future, some content about that, but more about my life as well, not just sales related. But if that's something anyone would be interested in, feel free to let me know in the comments, because this channel is not only related to sales. Like, my goal for this channel is just to share also how I'm growing as a person and what I'm achieving in my own life, and to help people do the same in their lives, even if it's not specifically related to sales, whether that's in fitness, in mindset, whatever the case may be. So I may start doing content like that in the near future if it's requested as well. So let's get back to the video though.
On the right path for success at VShred as well. Okay.
Cool. Yep, sounds good.
Sweet. Now, just as a time check as well, Rochelle, because I mean, Angela, the calls usually do go for like 45 minutes. So would that be okay with you?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, amazing. Now, the other reason for the call as well is obviously because you did the metabolic quiz. Now, with the quiz, it's not blood work by any means, so it's not 100% accurate, but it does typically give us like a 90 to 95% accuracy in terms of what's happening with your metabolism. So, usually someone in your age group would score around like a 7 out of 10 on the quiz, but the result we got back for you came back a bit on the lower end at a 4 out of 10. Okay, now, not the end of the world, you're not going to die, right? It just means that you might have a bit of a harder time when it comes to losing weight, keeping it off, and also building muscle as well. So does that come as a surprise to you at all, Angela?
No. No surprise.
Okay, gotcha. No surprise. Cool. Well, we can definitely dive into that.
So a bit of context for anyone that doesn't know, I sell a fitness offer and it's a tripwire, so they don't know it's a sales call. And how they get onto the call, they basically fill out a metabolic assessment, answer a few questions about their body, their weight, all that sort of stuff, and then basically they tell them, hey, we got your metabolic results. In order to find out what they are, book a call and speak to an advisor, which is me in this case. And that's why I told her, got the results here, they're not so good. Does that come as a surprise to you? And then obviously, as you can see, she's laughing about it. She's not taking it very seriously. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I might need to obviously reframe her and let her gauge how serious this actually is. So that's just what I'm thinking right now before I continue on the call.
That in a second. But just before we do, since I only have ranges on my screen, Angela, can I please get your age, your height, and your body weight, please?
Yes. So my age, 44.
Mm-hmm.
And my height is 5'2" and 225.
225. Okay, got you. And what are you looking to achieve specifically working with us at VShred?
Weight loss, just be healthier. I pretty much know how to eat healthy, but the problem is that everything I've done in the past, it's a yo-yo diet, right? So I don't do, everything I've done has been always natural, counting calories and all that. So I'll give you a little background history. So
one second, Angela. Before we, no problem.
I can obviously tell she's a rambler, she's a chatterbox. She's, someone that likes to speak a lot, so she's starting to go off on a tangent, so this is something I still struggle with a lot because I would be afraid of cutting them off, but I could tell that she's going to start blabbering, and that is not now the point of the call where we're at the moment. I just want to know what she wants to achieve, and so I can move on with my process, because little things like that, if I let it slide throughout the whole call, she's just going to feel like she's in control. So when it comes to me actually challenging her or making a step up to make a decision at the end of the call, she's going to think, why must I listen to this guy? She's just going to feel like she's the authority. So as you can see, as I noted, she's just going to start giving me a backstory. I politely said, 1 second, Angela, before we get into that, and then took a bit back on part.
Not jump the gun too much, but before we dive into what you've done and all that, I just want to firstly understand what is actually what are you wanting to achieve, what's your goals, would you say?
I'd like to lose at least a good 50 pounds or more, between 50 and 80.
Yeah, 80. Okay.
In a healthier overall, lose weight, feel good, healthy, and just be able to hopefully maintain it. I don't want to say once for all, but I don't want to. It's the yo-yo diet, right? And so everything I've done, you eat. You don't want to starve yourself, but it's kind of like one of those things where I don't even have to eat that much, and I'll gain the weight.
So if you were to lose 80 pounds, that would put you at 145. So is that your long-term goal, 145?
Yeah, between 145 and 150, I'd be very happy. Mm-hmm. Now, if I lost more, that's even better, but yeah, realistically, yeah,
Well, anything is possible, right, Angela? So aside from, thinking about realistically, where would you love to be? If you could snap your fingers, where would you want to be? Because that's where we can help you get to. So I don't want you to...
I'll go with 140 would be good, because I know what I look like at 150, and I think 140 would be good. I think anything less, I'd probably look sickly, and I don't want to look sickly. You
Okay.
know, I know.
So as you can see, first was like, oh, I just want to lose some weight, get healthy. Then I had to dig a bit deeper. I want to lose about 50, 80 pounds. Then I'm like, okay, that's 145. Is that where you really want to be? Or then she's like, no, if I could lose more, that'll be even better. So I'm like, okay, 140 is a big goal. So it's the first started sort of as a small gap. And then we got it up to like a really big gap, which, you know, stuff like that adds up throughout the call. It's going to give us more leverage, or give me more leverage when I'm digging into the pain, into how long she's been struggling, you know, how basically building the gap from where she is now and where she wants to be, which is on the other side of the bridge.
At 150, what my face looked like, and even though I was healthy, everybody kept worrying, like, oh my God, like, you know, just. So I think honestly, like, 140, 145 would be.
Sweet. So that's like 85 pounds. Okay. Now, when was the last time that you were back at 140? How long ago was that?
Well, I made it to 150, and probably about a year.
I mean 140. No, not 150. When was
Yeah,
that?
never get it down to 140.
So as you can see, she likes to talk a lot. She likes to avoid the question sometimes. So throughout this whole call, it's just going to be me challenging her and, you know, bringing her back into where I need her to be so that we can actually stay on course to what's really going to benefit her, as opposed to her just going off on a tangent and the call just ended up being not really helpful for anyone.
45. I'd like to. My last weight of last year, believe it or not, was 150, and I kept that for 2 years.
Okay, but more so like when were you last at 140 though? That's what.
See, I'm asking her again for 140. Right? She's trying to make herself feel better by saying, oh, I was last at 150. I maintained that for 2 years. Hold on, Angela. My question is, when were you last at 140? You know? So, see, if I didn't dig deeper initially, then that's going to be all the room we're playing with. But now, because I did dig deeper when it comes to a real goal, now I have a longer time frame, because she's going to now tell me, oh, that was even longer, you know? Which means she's been struggling for much longer than she wanted to admit initially.
I was asking.
I never was. You know what I mean? That's a goal in my head, but I never was.
Well, it might have been like a very long time ago, but you would have had to have been below that at some point in your life, right? So even if it was a long time ago, like when was that?
Oh my God, that would probably be maybe in my high school years. Maybe when I was about 20.
About 20. So about 20 years ago, you'd say?
Yeah, easily.
Okay, no worries. So over the past 20 years then for you, Angela, like what specifically have you tried to lose weight? I know you...
See, now we got all the logic in place. I know what's a goal. I know how long she hasn't been there. You know, and I have everything I need to now start becoming the detective and figuring out exactly what's been her problem these past 20 years. I already know it's consistency, because she said that at the start of the call. She just yo-yo diets. And, you know, she basically said in her own words that she struggles with consistency, but I'm just stacking a bit more evidence, building more clarity before I tell her, hey, this is the problem. Would you agree? So that's basically what I'm doing now, is to find the bottleneck and show her that what the real problem is.
You mentioned calorie counting, but what else have you done?
Pretty much Weight Watchers. And I'm not downing Weight Watchers. It's good and it worked, but you're living your whole life with a scale and weighing everything you eat. And then, you know, I've had 3 kids, life in general. I tend to like sweets. So when life gets crazy and hectic, I don't care about food. I like the sweets. And clearly that's not healthy, right? But so when I go on the path of, okay, eating healthy, I'm going to weigh the food, count the calories, do all that and above, and exercise, like I have health issues. So for me, I can't overdo and I can't underdo, right? So it's a happy moderation and pretty much walking, because that's low impact, right? And so if I have a cheat day in the past, then it starts to be a little harder, because I've had a cheat day and now it's not so much, even though it's hard to get back, like say you cheat on a Sunday and Monday, you're like, hey, I'm going to get back on track on Monday. You do that, but then it's like my body would take forever just from that one day to readjust. And it just seems like, and not just that, like after losing the weight, I get like in the very, you know, the first week, you know, you lose the bloat and you're like, hey, I'm on the right path. But then it gets harder where everything just stopped. And that's what happened in the summer. You know what I mean? Like
And I guess how many times, like over the past 20 years, Angela, would you say you've tried to lose weight? How many attempts would you have made in total, even if they
oh,
weren't like 100% committed?
oh my God, a good 10 times at least.
At least,
So,
yeah. Okay. And I guess whenever you were trying to lose weight, Angela, how much weight would you typically lose when you were trying? Like what results would you get?
between 20, 30, 40 pounds. But then in the last 2 years on my own with Weight Watchers, I lost 80 pounds.
Okay.
And at that point, when I lost the 80 pounds 2 years ago, I go with 2 years ago because I kept it off. I lost it a couple of years ago, and for a good year and a half, I kept it off.
Mhm.
So my weight went down to 150, which was fine because I wanted to get back to what I was when I got married, which was 151. So at 150, it was like I could never get down to the 140, 145 in my head. Like I was, I got stuck. And then life is a little bit hectic, and that's not an excuse, but I have 3 kids, like I said, and 2 with special needs. So my time's not always my own time. And what ended up happening is after I had my daughter, I got really...
Her saying it's not an excuse indicates to us that this is an excuse. So as you can see, I'm taking notes in my head. So once I'm gonna get back at her, I'm gonna help her see that, hey, these are excuses, right? You can't actually blame these things for why you're not successful. So she's externalizing a lot, basically.
strict with my weight, and that's when I lost the 80 pounds, and I kept it off for a good couple of years. In the end, the oldest is gonna be 15. He's autistic. He's a smart kid, but he has a lot of behavioral issues, which is draining. We'll just use that word, very draining. I mean, I cross my T's, dot my I's. I got this kid in-home therapy and
I see. So it sounds like, you obviously have, a lot going on in your life, Angela.
yeah.
And I know it can definitely, make it a lot more challenging.
See, I cut her off, and then as I'm trying to say something, she trying to talk again, but I'm just leading the call and showing, hey, when I'm talking, you listen. Not in a mean way, but just trying to help her understand that I'm in control. She needs to respect where I'm taking this call and not think she can just butt in and go off on long tangents when that's not really answering what I asked her.
To achieve your goals.
Well, that's just it.
Do you feel like even...
I just want to say this. And then my 10-year-old, no glitches. And my daughter,
So that was a mistake on my end. I shouldn't have let that slide, especially since she pointed at me. Because that's her again trying to take frame, which was a mistake in my eyes, letting that slide. I should have said, hey, wait 1 second, Angela. I'm not yet done. What I was saying was, and then continue. Because things like this, if I'm missing these things, it's going to make this whole process a lot longer. As opposed to me being very sharp and, being on point with addressing these things as soon as they come up. It would have helped me shorten down the call a lot quicker.
where it got harder because she's nonverbal and she's 3 now. So when I lost the weight, I had more time for me. But because I deal with her challenges of being nonverbal,
So now she's basically trying to explain why she hasn't lost the weight or kept it off, because her kids are, need more assistance or need help, which are valid. They're valid reasons as to why it makes it harder, but she can't be believing that that's the reason she's unsuccessful, because her believing that is not going to help her, change her life, because she's always going to have kids. They're always going to need her help. So there's no point explaining to me why it's so difficult. Let's find a way to make it work, and let's take ownership on why you haven't yet been able to make it work around all those things. So in my head, that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm going to help her realize as well.
I don't have time to sit there with a scale, and so the weight creeped up, and that's my story.
I see. Okay, I understand, Angela. Like I said, I know it does make it a lot more challenging, but do you feel like there is a chance that you can actually not just lose the weight, but keep it off even with the challenges you're facing at the moment?
Yeah, because I did it once, I got to do it again. So it's not I just have to do it. That's it.
You see, everything she just said for the past minute about why she couldn't keep it off, with the answer she gave me, it basically says everything I've just said was an excuse. Because I literally said, okay, I understand those things are a challenge, but do you feel like there is a chance you can actually lose the weight and keep it off even with those things happening in place? Then she's like, yes, I can. I've done it before, which means that's not the reason she's been unsuccessful.
For sure. So would it be fair to say that, Angela, that it's not necessarily that, it's, your kids or your busy life that's the problem. It's more so that the consistency has been the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah, I would say both the consistency and the challenge of life, because the challenge of life sometimes gets in the way of trying to be consistent.
Yeah, of course.
So
But
it's
ultimately,
like it's a scale, right?
yeah, for sure. Well, I guess a better question would be then, do you feel like there are, other people out there that do have,
She's kind of trying to take ownership, but also still saying, yeah, but life, but this, but that. She's not yet taking full ownership. So as you can see, I'm not going to move on until she actually falls into frame and takes ownership of the problem.
similar sort of stress as you, same sort of lifestyle, but can also achieve the goals you want to achieve? Do you feel like that does exist?
Yeah, you have to have a positive outlook, and I'm a very positive person, regardless of the cards I've been dealt with. You have to have a positive.
Of course, because ultimately those are the cards you dealt with, right? We can't necessarily get new kids or get a new job or something like that.
Oh no, I love it.
Yeah,
I can't change anything.
of course.
So my household might be a little bit harder than the person next door, but there's always my motto is that it could always be worse. It could always be worse. Even though I have my daunting days, it could always be worse. But because it is go, 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 sometimes it's hard. It's hard to live by a weighing scale of weighing your food. And that's where it got off the rails, because I didn't have time for me anymore. I didn't have time to sit there and scale everything. I mean, me and my husband and my parents live downstairs. My parents come upstairs. We eat together as a family, kind of like old school. It's nice, and so whatever they ate, I ate, but only I was literally weighing. If I went to my in-laws, I was taking the scale with me and I was weighing. Now, like I said, Angela's 3. It's a little bit more of a hectic lifestyle, which is fine. But hopefully, that's why I'm curious, because I saw you guys on an ad on the internet, and I don't know. We got to see what you guys have to offer, and I'm eager. Let's just put it like that. You know what I mean? I'm tired.
I understand, and it's always gonna be hard, though, Angela. Like I mentioned, because I'm never gonna be the one to say it's gonna always just be sunshine and rainbows, right? It's gonna be hard either way. So it's just a matter of picking, which hard do you want? Because you can either, go the hard route of being consistent even when life gets busy and staying committed, or you can choose other hard of, not being consistent and living in a body that you're not happy with and not serving you. So which do you feel is harder for you to do?
Well, it's definitely harder. I don't like myself like this, so that's always harder.
For sure. So knowing that, then
So as you can see, I'm being completely truthful with her, right? This whole conversation so far has been based on the truth, right? I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not making her think it's okay to have these excuses. I'm being really straight with her. I'm very direct with her, and she knows that I'm not here to just sugarcoat things and make her think that everything's perfect. She wasn't expecting this, but I know that this is what's going to help her be successful long term. So as you can see, she's saying it's hard to do these things. So I'm helping her see the bigger picture and realize that, yes, it is hard, but with all due respect, it's actually harder to continue the rest of your life in a body you're not happy with and you're not satisfied in, and possibly experience health conditions later down the road and die early in life. Then compared to that, now staying consistent becomes not as hard. So I'm basically helping her see the perspectives of, her situation, instead of just being focused in on her struggling for so long.
The consistency has been the biggest challenge for you, Angela. Do you feel like if you continue to be inconsistent, you'd ever have a good shot at getting back to 140 again?
Yeah.
I meant if you continue to be inconsistent.
Oh no, if you're inconsistent, that's for anybody. If you're inconsistent, you're not going to lose, But I'm curious how, so for me, I always felt as though my metabolism was on the slower end anyhow, pretty much forever, just because my husband's thin and he can eat everything and anything, right? And he doesn't gain. And then it's I'm different, because even if I eat something exactly what he's eating, I gain, you know? So,
I see, because
yeah,
it is different,
it is different.
from person to person. So I guess
Exactly.
for you then, Angela, since, over these past like 20 years, what do you feel like that inconsistency has costed you in terms of your health and your fitness?
Um, Believe it or not, and I go to the primary care doctor all the time. I'm pretty healthy. Like my cholesterol's good, my sugar's good, my blood pressure's good. My health issues I have is I have disc problems. I have herniated and bulging discs and some disc loss, and I have fibromyalgia and I have lupus. So between having 3 kids, 2 with the issues, and then um, the lupus and the fibromyalgia, I have chronic pain every day. So that's why I was trying to say, like, my health issues, I can't overdo and underdo. So
Right.
sometimes, like when I'm walking, in my head, I want to go, 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 but physically, I know I can't. So,
I see.
but I have to
And
push myself.
I
So, like,
wasn't,
go ahead.
no, sorry, I wasn't necessarily meaning specifically health issues. I just meant for even more so just for you as a person. Like, what has that led to for you not being where you wanted to be for the past like 20 years? Like, what effect has that had on you?
Um, it's almost like being trapped in your own body because you see yourself one way, but you look a different way. So I've always been upbeat, regardless of my weight. I've never been depressed about it, but you just feel uncomfortable. You know, want to just, you don't want, I hate to say like you want to be like everybody else. You don't want to be like everybody else, but you see yourself, like I feel like I'm a smaller frame in a sense than what I really am. Like no matter what my size is, I love to dress up. I love clothes. I don't let it get me down as far as my weight. It's just, there are days where you do get frustrated because, it's just,
Yeah. You're not where you want to be, not you're happy. Got you. So I guess knowing that's what it's already costing you so far, Angela, like,
At this point, since we identified the bottleneck is her inconsistency, now I'm just getting her to actually sell herself on how this inconsistency has been affecting her life in the past, and now we're going to do the future. So that when I ask her if she is ready to actually be consistent, she has leverage to use so that she can be consistent. Because if I asked her, are you ready to be consistent now? She might say like, I don't know, I'll try to, but if I understand that she hasn't been happy for 20 years, she feels trapped in her own body, she's worried she's gonna get health concerns in the future. Now she knows what's in place. When I ask her if she's ready to commit to be consistent, she's more likely gonna actually be willing to do that because she knows what it's gonna cost her in the future and what it's been costing her. One mistake I realized I'm making here, she's externalizing a lot when she's explaining her pain. So she's saying you feel uncomfortable, when you have extra weight, you. And although it's very subtle, but she's saying you, but she's explaining her problem. In which means that on a small level, she's still externalizing. She's not. She should be saying I feel uncomfortable. I feel this. I feel that. Because then she's actually owning the problem. Because when you're saying you, it's like kind of putting it onto like everybody, as to say everybody struggles with that. So one thing I should have done is definitely asked her like, when you say you, Angela, do you mean like me, or are you talking about like your situation and what you're going through? Then she'd be like, oh no, I mean me, sorry. Then that should obviously fix that. But for some reason, whether I just forgot or just didn't feel like addressing it, but I should have done that, because especially with this type of prospect, that makes a ton of excuses too.
if things, were to stay the same or things don't change for you moving forward, like what do you feel like it would continue to cost you later down the road?
See, I get to a certain point, like in the past and from now, when you gain weight, there's a cutoff point where you say, that's enough. I need to lose the weight. So this has always been my highest, right? Like 225, 230 max, where you go, okay, I have to do something. Let me start dieting. So I would never see myself going like beyond and being like 300 or 400 pounds. No, because I'm already uncomfortable in the weight that I'm at. So I would never You know what I'm saying? You got to put the pedal to the metal, and then you got to do something. But once you start losing the weight, and then it's like, all right, you sacrifice and sacrifice, and then you plateau. That's where the frustration comes in.
That's what I'm saying. Not necessarily that you're gonna end up at 300 or 400, but most of the fact that if this cycle like continues for you, like what do you feel like that would like have an impact on you in the future if things stay the same though? How do you feel like that would?
I don't know. It's hard to say because like I've dealt with it my whole life. So would it impact me differently? I don't know. I've lived with it my whole life. You know what I mean? I know what I was before. I know where I was 6 months ago. I know where I am at now. Would it impact me differently with my health? I mean, you don't want to eat wrong because you don't want to. I don't want to bring on additional health issues, right? So
Right.
I don't know if I'm answering, but that's the best that I can answer it for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you mentioned you lived with it your whole life, Angela, which, do you feel like it's something you would want to continue living with for the rest of your life, though?
No, nobody wants to be overweight. Nobody wants to feel uncomfortable. It's a little odd because my husband and all his family are kind of like on the thin side, not because they work out or they eat healthy. I actually think my sister-in-law, if she weighs about 100 pounds and she's about 5'1", she looks really too thin, but whatever. But like that whole side of the family is very, very thin. My side of the family has never been thin. It's always on the pudgy, chunky, I'm built just like my mother. So we're not, I know considering like the BMI chart, yes, you'd say, okay, obese, but we're not, 400 or 500 pounds. So, so when I'm with my in-laws, internally, I feel uncomfortable because I'm the heavyset one. They're all the thin ones.
I see. Okay. And I guess
that's just me.
Yeah. And I guess knowing that sort of, what it's been costing you, what it might cost you in the future, Angela, like, how do you feel like you would need to do things differently this time around to ensure you can actually get to the goal and stay and maintain it too?
Well, here's the deal. If I have to see what you guys have to say.
So normally I would just ask them at this point if they're ready to commit to being consistent. But because I knew she had a ton of excuses, I'm trying to really understand what's going through her mind. That's why I asked her, okay, knowing what it's costing you now, what it could lead to in the future, how do you think you need to do things differently moving forward? And as you can hear, she's still like hoping for like a magic plan. She's saying what she wants to hear, what we have to offer, this, that. So I'm still gonna need to reframe her again on all these things. And by the way, this part of the call is normally done like ages ago for other people. This is taking very long for her, but as you can see, it needs to be done. So I'm not going to move on until it's done. Because in the past, these types of prospects, they would, walk all over me and I would just, move on to the next part of the call and not get them to take full ownership of the problem, which results in, not even closing at the end. But as you can see, I'm sticking to my guns here, and anything that comes up, I'm addressing it to make sure that this part of the call, getting her to take ownership and commit to doing things differently, is dialed in, because that's going to set the foundation of the rest of the call, as you're going to see in a moment.
And what you have for advice and what the meal, like how your program actually looks. And if I don't see fit with your program, then I have to go back to weighing everything, because that's the only way I'm going to lose the weight. So it's going to toss up, honestly.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not going to stay like this. It's just a question of there's no magic fix all. The only thing that kind of leaned me towards, let me see about this program, was the fact of it's a little bit more detailed, where Weight Watchers is like, okay, everybody has, everybody, what I mean? So, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
So,
well, ultimately, though, for you and Angela, like, what do you feel is ultimately more important? Do you feel like it's the whatever plan you choose, or do you feel like it's your commitment and your level of consistency you approach the plan with?
It's going to be whatever plan that I think fits.
See, so she still believes it's the plan, which is the problem. Because if she feels it's a plan, she's just gonna think she can do whatever she wants and still lose weight. But me helping her see that, hey, it's not the plan, it's actually on you, that's gonna help her respect me a lot more because I'm being truthful and honest with her. I'm not like other sales rep that's gonna tell them we have the best plan, you need this. This is the only thing that's gonna help you. I'm telling her that, you know, she can do any plan and still lose weight. It just comes down to her being consistent, you know, and building the whole conversation of truth like that is what helps them trust me a lot more, respect me a lot more, see me as a leader, so that when I get to the end of the call and I'm asking her to spend $4,000 on this because it's going to help her, that's why she closes with no objections, even though she's giving me all these excuses now, because I'm doing all this heavy lifting now and the front of the call, so that when I get to the end, the close is effortless. You see? So that's the importance of, you know, having a really good discovery. Any red flags that pop up, address them immediately and effectively and make sure they're gone completely. So that by the end of the call, when there's money involved, you know you've already done the heavy lifting, right? And even if you do get objections, they'll be a lot easier to handle because you've done such a good job prior to dropping the price. But if I just let her go on with these excuses throughout the whole call, I'll let her talk over me, I'll let her always just ramble, what do you think she's going to do at the end when I'm asking her to spend $4,000? Right? So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because it's obviously in our best interest to, one, see things differently, aside from buying the program, but also to set her up for success even when she's done working with us.
What makes you feel like it would be the plan?
Yeah.
So to recap, I asked her what's more important. Do you feel like it's more important of what plan you do, or is it more important about how consistent and how committed you are when it comes to doing the plan? And then she still thinks it's the plan. So I'm basically going to reframe her now and ask her firstly, I mean, what makes you say it's the plan? So understand what she's thinking and then reframe her on how to view things in a more beneficial way that's going to actually help her.
I already know how Weight Watchers works. I've probably done Weight Watchers, let me see, 1, 2, 3, about 4 times in my life, at least. So I'm curious to see what you guys have to offer. And I try to look on the app. The app's a little overwhelming because there's just so much information, you know?
I'm just curious for you, Angela, like what made you laugh about the fact that you've done Weight Watchers for 4 times?
Because
That's a huge pattern to interrupt. Even me watching this, knowing I should have addressed the laugh, I'm like, you know, where did that come from? You know? And especially as a prospect, right? You come in here thinking this guy's going to help you, give you some advice. Meantime, he's fucking drilling you, making sure that you're stepping up to his standard. And, you know, you can't be laughing around these things, you know. Trying 4 times on something that other people have been successful with and failing is not a laughing matter. She shouldn't be laughing about the fact that she's been overweight for 20 years, right? And me helping her see that is going to help her realize that, hey, this isn't actually a small problem and she needs to start taking it more seriously.
Lose the weight, even if you don't get to what you want, but you've lost, say, 20, 30 pounds or whatever, it seems to be if you have those cheat days or you didn't weigh that one particular day, but you kind of eyeballed everything healthy-wise, metabolism, it's you plateau and then you gain. And then it ends up being like for me, it ends up being like the yo-yo diet. Mm-hmm. You know, honestly, it's frustrating because in my household, we don't do takeout. That's like a real treat. Like even my kids, like, you know, their friends will be like, well, we get this every Friday and every Saturday. No, it's a treat.
But like we did mention like a moment ago, you know, Angela, it's not a case that what you have done in the past wasn't working. It's more so a case that you weren't actually consistent with it long term. Isn't that right?
Yes and no. Consistency is important, and I was being consistent, but the only way to be inconsistent was I had to weigh everything in order to lose. If I didn't weigh and be that strict and scanning everything, then, because you know, you go in the grocery store and they have the app, you can scan how many points this is and calorie. So once you start eyeballing it and you kind of memorize the points, you kind of I don't know, it's a little different. You plateau.
But then if you were to stay consistent with weighing, do you feel like you would have got to your goal though? If you were actually consistent 100%?
Uh,
If we were to be honest with each other.
Possibility. But who can honestly go their whole lives and weigh every single thing you eat continuously? You know what I mean?
Well, many people have done it, right, Angela? It just comes down to, your commitment and how important the goal is to you, because ultimately it's not like you need to do it for your whole life. It's just more so about getting to where you want to be. And from there, we can try and make the right sort of tweaks and changes, right? Because, like I said, it is going to be hard either way, Angela. And ultimately, having the perfect plan is good. Having a plan that's going to help you and be as best optimized for you is good. But what do you feel would be better? Like having the perfect plan and being 20% consistent, or having a suboptimal plan and being 100% consistent?
Oh, no, 100% consistent.
What makes you say that?
So as you can see, she's starting to realize what I'm doing, right? She's kind of starting to realize, I can't make excuses. This guy is like onto me, Even now, asked her, what's more important, the plan or being 100% consistent, even on a suboptimal plan? Then she's like, oh no, 100% consistent. Then I don't even let it slide. I'm like, okay, what makes you say that, right? Sell me on why you agree with my beliefs and my mental model, right? She's justifying herself on why she's wrong and why I'm right, which is obviously what we're here to do, to help them mold themselves into the person they need to be successful.
But being consistent also means you have to be happy on the plan you're on.
Well, not necessarily, because in order to achieve your goal, to be honest, you're not going to be happy because you're not eating the way you want to eat, right? You're restricting yourself.
Not necessarily, because we do in this house, we don't eat a lot of red meat. We eat a lot of chicken, a lot of, we stay away from a lot of the red meat. So in my household, my dad has a problem with his pancreas, and that consists of him having to eat low fat, low fiber in his case, not a lot of greasy foods. And like I said, we all eat together. So that kind of makes us, my mother, my kids, to not eat all that greasy foods and stuff like that. To me, I just feel as though because I can't do a lot of the exercises, my body can't burn maybe fat as fast as some other people. So my metabolism to me is slower.
Mm-hmm.
So the little thing I eat like a rabbit and you hope to lose, but that only takes you so far. So it's not a problem of commitment. It's just finding what really, works and what I'm comfortable.
So as you can see, we're 24 minutes into the conversation and she's still not really buying into the fact that she hasn't been committed or hasn't been consistent. She's kind of buying into it, but then she's still justifying and externalizing. Right, so as you can see, very tricky prospect. I feel like I could have been a lot more direct and effective with her before getting to this point, because when I did try to reframe her, I thought I did a good job and it was enough, but evidently it wasn't enough because she keeps bringing it up, which is obviously something I can improve on. But it's also important to note that if something comes up again, just because you tried to handle it earlier in the call doesn't mean you must just skip past it now, because now she's saying that, it's not about her commitment. It's about finding something that works for her, which is bullshit, right? So let's see what I do next.
Comfortable with and what works with my lifestyle.
And I guess when you say the problem hasn't been commitment, Angela, what makes you say that, knowing that you haven't actually been 100% consistent until you hit your goal?
Because again, life, and then you end up, again, living by the scale. Well, let me ask you this question. What does your plan have to, why is your plan better than other people's plan? What would you advise?
So she's kind of maybe getting a bit frustrated now because I'm trying to get her to justify her logic, and she's not really doing a good time at doing that for me. So now she's trying to put it on me and trying to get me to tell her why we're the best. And she wants to hear why are we so good. So, which is obviously not going to fly. So let's see how I handle this.
Before we actually...
Totally 100 committed. What makes you guys unique than other plants?
Yeah, good question. But before we do like actually dive into that, Andrew, just want to give you some context on, why I'm asking you these questions, right? Because, in life, I know a lot about what it takes to help people change and, achieve the outcomes they want. So, you can either live on two sides of the coin. You can either live on the cause side of life, or you can live on the effect side of life, right? And on the effect side of life is where the majority of people...
At this point, because I've tried to reframe her multiple times, it's still not working. She's not even wanting to know about the plan, why we're so special. I'm like, okay, let me just get down to the basics and explain cause and effect to this lady and explain to her what I'm trying to do in this part of the call. Because basically, the first part of the call is essentially just cause and effect, right? Getting them to live in the cause side of life and take ownership of the problem. So now I'm basically just explaining that concept because it's a principle I live by in my life, and that's what's helped me achieve the success I have achieved so far. So that's what I'm trying to do for these people, so they can also achieve the same success that they're wanting to achieve on their fitness journeys. So that's what I'm doing here.
Live a life where they normally make, they externalize and give reasons for why they're not where they want to be. So for example, maybe life, stress, these sort of things, there's external factors that's not in your control. However, if you choose to live life on the cause side of life, that's where everything is your fault and you're in control of the situation, and it's your fault for the problem. And although it's a harder way to live life, it gives you control of the situation, because if you're the reason for the problem, it also gives you the power to be able to change the problem, right? Because if you externalize and say, the reason is stress or metabolism, even if it's true, that belief is not serving you, because it's giving your power away to those things which you can't control. So when you live on the core side of life, you take full ownership, but it also gives you control of the problem, right? So that's more so what I was trying to gauge out of the conversation, is that would you agree that it's not entirely the stress or the busy life or the plans?
I'd say 50-50, because again, I've been committed, I've lost the weight, I've done the work in the past, but then life gets crazy, and then you say, screw it, I can't be dealing with a scale and doing that. It's just too much,
Mm-hmm.
So
but that's a decision you made at that moment, right,
yeah,
Angela?
It's 50-50, yes.
Well, it can't be 50-50, because in that situation, you could have made the harder choice to stick with it even though life is busy, if you were to be honest with each other. Because I'm not saying life didn't get crazy, right? But if you were to think of it, do you feel like there is a reality out there where, if your life depended on it and you needed to lose the weight, could you have stayed consistent even if life got busy?
Again, I'm going to say the same thing to you. I'm not taking fault or blame. It's just, if you want me to say I blame myself, until you live, my thing is, it's sometimes hard. I know where you're going with it, and I'm not disagreeing, but you can't judge somebody 100% until you walked a mile in their shoes.
And no one's judging you at all, Angela. I'm not judging you. And obviously, you've been through a lot of stuff. And like I said, that's just the cards that...
yeah. So do I take accountability? Yeah, because at the end of the day, you do get stressed out, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to have that cookie, or I'm going to have, that ice cream. I don't care, because I've done everything consistently and weighed everything. And now you say, I plateaued. I'm done. I'm done. Life is done. Mm-hmm. So it's so deep.
And in that moment, though, when you decide to go for the cookie or give up, technically you aren't being consistent, right? Because you're not actually sticking to the
at that point, because you don't care now. At that point, you're like, whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So that's ultimately the point I'm making, right? So would you agree that that is the biggest problem, is that you haven't been as consistent and as committed up until this point?
Oh yeah, I stopped being committed, but I have to get back on being committed. Mm-hmm.
Right. So would you say you are now ready and committed to be consistent, even if life does get hectic, so you can actually get to 140?
Right. Oh yeah, I and I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, I wanted to see about your, this program, to see. It's not about cutting corners and seeing. It's just to see what works better with my lifestyle, because of the situation of being, a mom who's invested in her kids, and especially that they're special needs. Is there another option with just having to stick by a scale maybe and just being able to say, okay, this
Yeah,
is the best food for your metabolism.
of
This
course.
is
And
what's you,
yeah,
this is
I
what
can.
I can incorporate as a family meal for everybody, along
Right.
with benefit to me. Yeah.
100%. And that's obviously something we can help you with, Angela. And I'm going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
But a big part of why we have this conversation is also just to, help you be more empowered when you do start your journey, and also to make sure that you are actually someone we can actually help with. So, and
Of
I know,
course.
because I know you can do it. And what I wanted to know more so, Angela, like, since it has been a 20-year challenge for you, what would you say makes it really important for you now, though, that you are ready and committed to being consistent so you can get back to 140? Like, why now is that really important for you?
Because being a mom of 3 kids and 2 with special needs, I'm the biggest advocate they have. So I have to be healthy for them.
I see.
So along.
Boom, finally. 30 minutes that took me to do. 30 minutes. Now, normally at 30 minutes, I'm pitching people. That's just this one that's the first part of the call. That normally takes me like 8 to 12 minutes max, normally. Then I do deep pain, which is what I'm about to get into. I'm understanding our problems, how it's affecting it now in the current situation. Then it's future pace, so what's the future going to look like when she finally achieves her goal? And then it's consequence, like what does the other side of the coin look like if you don't achieve your goals? What are you most worried about happening in the future? And normally at 30 minutes, I'm pitching at this time. But as you can see, because it needed to take this long, and obviously, I guess I could have done a better job in doing it quicker, but at the time, this was the best way I knew how to do it. So even though it took me 30 minutes, to be honest, in that moment, a part of me was like, this girl, is she even going to take ownership? Like, am I wasting my time on this girl? Like, I'm going to be late for my next call if this continues going like this. But I just stayed true to my process, and I was completely present in the moment. And I wasn't worried if I was going to be late for my next call, because I'm here to help her. And I can't be worried about the next call or how long this call is going to take, because then I'm not going to be fully present and engaged and putting myself in the best position to help her as best as she needs, right? Because think about the progress we've made just in 30 minutes time. She was someone that made a ton of excuses, thought that she was consistent when she wasn't actually consistent, thought that the problem was her kids, a busy lifestyle, a family, all this sort of stuff, thought that she needed the perfect plan. That's the missing piece. Wanted to know what we do, why we're so special, what does our plan look like. All these sorts of things are like red flags, right? But because I took her through this process and was so truthful and honest and direct with her and helped her see the truth and held up the mirror to her and showed her, hey, this is the reality of the situation, not what you've been telling yourself for these past 20 years, right? It's not this, it's this. Do you agree? Yes. Why do you agree? Boom. Finally got her to take ownership, right? And then because we had such a truthful and honest conversation, the rest of the call was really smooth, right? I got deep on her pain. I got deep on her future situation of what her life would look like if she achieves the goal, if she doesn't achieve the goal. And by the time we got to the end of the call, even when I dropped the $4,000 price tag on the program, there were no objections. No objections. And imagine a prospect like this, based on how these last 30 minutes went, you would think that they would give you a ton of objections. And she would have, if I didn't do what I did for the first 30 minutes of the call. Right? She was curious to know, what makes us so special? What does your program look like? And some prospects will ask that. Like when I drop the price, they want to know what they're going to eat, how does the program work? I need to know everything before I make a decision. But because I had such a good call with her, when I dropped the price tag, she gave me no objections at the end. She was just like, okay. There were no objections. Objection is closed, $4,000 sale. Her life has changed. And she's now empowered to finally make this work long term. You know, that's the power of selling the way I sell. You know, I'm not just trying to say whatever I can to get them to buy my program. As you can see, I wasn't trying to please her. I wasn't trying to make her like me. I wasn't trying to, you know, just suck up to her and make her think she's the queen of the world. I was staying true to my process the whole call. Any excuse she gave me, I addressed it. I reframed her. I challenged her. You know, I helped her see the truth. And that's why this call closed objectionless. I feel the North Star was the best part of this call in terms of her actually realizing the truth and why it's important for her to view things in a different way. Which she obviously did in the end. And that's why she stayed on the call, first of all. She answered my questions and she changed her life at the end of the call by moving forward. So, really good call. Very proud call from mine. Because, like I said, 30 minutes, just the first part of the call, that's probably the longest I've spent with someone in just the first part of the call. I think I missed my next 2 calls with this person because obviously the next call was in like 30 minutes from now. And by the time I pitched, by the time I walked her to payment, that took a lot longer. So, but I helped her in the end, and that's what matters the most. So that's it for today's video. I just wanted to show the first part of the call. Yeah, that's the call, and hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you learned something. Hope it was valuable, and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on how I handled it. I'd love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, and yeah, thank you for sticking through to the end. I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And as always, if you want to follow me on my social media, the links will be down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Have an amazing week and stay safe.